everyone. So my name is Mona Eid, and I will be the moderator of the next talks on stage 2. So let me just remind you that you can ask your question in the chat, and also you have the possibility to ask your question on the Ask the Shiny Speakers channel on the Slack. So you have a great lineup of talks coming up. The next talk is entitled Everyone Needs a Shiny App Planning Document, and it will be presented by Brandon Zohas. So he's a biostatistician on the specialty data analytics team at Moderna. He specializes in crafting interactive visualization for clinical trial data and creating a seamless analytics pipeline. So his professional interests include analytic process automation and building our communities. Brandon, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona, for that introduction. Like she said, my name is Brandon Suker, and today I'll be speaking a little bit about why everyone needs a Shiny app planning document. And so I'll talk a little bit about why this is important to start and why we would want a planning document, and maybe some examples of situations that you've been in that a planning document could be helpful. And then I'll walk through the planning document that I put together that to use and show some examples of how that can be used, and then talk about meeting with stakeholders and why that's important in this whole app development process, and then end with some of the benefits of using this planning document, as well as concluding. So just to start off, why do we need a planning document? What is the importance of having this in our app development process? And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you spent a long time on one feature of the app only to find out at the end of the app when you deliver it that it was never used by the end user. Or maybe you've delivered a Shiny app and then find out that there was a crucial piece missing that would have helped so much for the end user to be able to use in their work. Or maybe you started working on an app and perhaps you bring in another colleague or even transfer the project to them and need to get them up to speed on everything that is going on in this app and talk about the app framework or the purpose, and don't have any sort of centralized document to help you in this transfer. So in my case, I once was working on a Shiny app where there was an initial framework that was created based off of the scope of the app at that time and what it was thought to be used for in the end. And then later found out, I was brought on later on, and we added in some additional analyses that we weren't expecting, and then the framework somewhat changed as we were going along. And so because of these changes, it ended up being a hectic few weeks as we tried to finish the app before the deadline. But the app had enlarged so much that testing became fairly difficult. And so overall, we had not thought about modularizing our code enough at the beginning because we had not understood the scope initially. And that would have been resolved had we had a better plan. So once we finished this experience, we discussed as a team what went well and what needed to improve. And out of this discussion, we came up with the thought of using some sort of Shiny app planning document or just a project development plan in general to help coordinate our efforts better. And so this planning document came out of that discussion, and there were just some thoughts that I threw together that have been honed over time with help from other colleagues as well. And so I'm just going to walk through the different aspects of this planning document and how it can be used. And so this is kind of the large overview of the document, and we'll walk through each section of this template. And as I walk through, I wanted to provide some sort of fun example that would be helpful as we go through this. And so one thing that I like to do in my spare time is watch sitcoms. And so in this case, I have created an example from The Office, where I have been brought on to work at Dunder Mifflin as a contractor and create a Shiny app for them to help them in detecting the sales trends and across with competitors and across the different branches at Dunder Mifflin. And so that will be our example as we go through this. So to start off this planning document, we have the header, and it's just to give everyone a succinct description of what this app will be what it will be doing, and who is in charge. And so we'll have the name of the project, the lead project person, and so this could be the lead developer. It could be a project manager or even the stakeholder. And we'll list who is contributing to the project. And we can write out a purpose statement. So maybe 1 or 2 lines that outline the goals for the project, or just an overarching description of what the app will be doing. And then we can have a target end date. This could be a single date or multiple dates, depending on what we want our deliverables to be. In this case, I put a first draft and then also a final draft with real data. So typically in pharma or biotech, we work with dummy data, or dry run data, as it is referred to in the industry, before actually transferring over to using real data. And so in the example with Dunder Mifflin, we're going to call it the Scranton Info Strangler. And Michael Scott, our branch manager, is the project lead, and I will be working with Dwight, Jim, and Pam, that were also in that picture in the previous slide, to work on the Shiny app, and I kind of already outlined the purpose of this app. So in the scope section of this planning document, we have 2 sections that I always like to include: the main business objectives and questions to be answered, as well as the app framework. So in the first section, we can outline the purpose statements, but go a little deeper than that to state the objectives. And I love to have the questions to be answered in mind as I'm developing, because it helps me to have a better mindset and understand what the end user is hoping to see in the Shiny app as I am developing it, so I can tailor it more towards their needs. And in the app framework section, we can kind of just outline what the app will look like visually. So the sections of the app, maybe the different plots or tables that you'll put there, the workflow through the Shiny app. So this could end up turning into some sort of blueprint that can be reviewed over time to see if the app is on track, and it can even map out what the app will look like. So some other section ideas that I listed are data considerations, if we need to deal with data sensitivity, or who can view the app, kind of leads into app access and the end users. We could have a section that basically defines who this end user is and what they will be looking for, which is kind of similar to the questions to be answered section in the scope. Or we can even list the different tasks for each contributor. If you're working with multiple people on this Shiny app, you can list out who is working on each section of the app. Or if there's people from outside of your team that are bringing in domain knowledge or other aspects, they can also be listed here in this section to have more detailed ideas there. So for our example with Dunder Mifflin, I listed out some of the questions that we wanted to answer in the Shiny app, as well as how the app was going to be split out into multiple tabs to show different trends that they were looking at. In this timeline slide, I wanted to show a few different ways that you could basically show a timeline on the planning document. So this first way is a table of milestones, where you can list out some of the deliverables, or when the data will be delivered to you and who will be contributing to each step in this process. We can also view this visually in more of a Gantt chart type of form, where we have the different tasks and we can look at it over time, when these will be completed. You could also use other softwares. One that I use is Jira, or you can use GitHub issues, where you can have different sections. And especially if you're working with a team on a specific application, you can have each task outlined there as well. So those are all just different ideas that you may include in this section of the planning document to have some sort of timeline that you're looking at and can work towards as you're working in the development process. And moving on to the last section, we're going to have the example with the office first, with just some of the milestones that we have to complete. And the last section is the resources. And so this could basically be any different ideas that you have that could be helpful for people in the future if you end up transferring the project, or just for those that need access to data right now, where the data sources are, where the data repository, even code repository is, and then the project or study info. So where the statistical analysis plan, in my case for pharma biotech, we usually have a statistical analysis plan that we're working with on completing a Shiny app or a protocol as well. So we might have a link to that in the planning document. Or additional sections could be contact information if you're working with an external client, could be research papers that you're using to replicate their analyses, or even data sensitivity, who has access to the data when it is delivered. Usually in pharma biotech, we have unblinded and blinded data, and so those will be delivered at different times. So in our Dunder Mifflin example, we have a shared folder in a database that will be used in the Shiny app development process. So that is a high-level overview of this planning document. I kind of ran through it quickly, but there may be aspects of this document that you would add or take out, and I would love to hear your feedback on that. And later on, I will share, and there might be in the comments in the chat already, the link to these slides, and then also the planning document template, as well as this example in that link. And so on the template, you can share your comments on what aspects you might include, what you might take out. So meeting with stakeholders is also another important aspect of this process, just to make sure everyone is on the same page and all of the ideas are being included into the Shiny app. And so before app development, it's so important to make a plan. And that's what this planning document is for. And you can discuss all of these different aspects of the planning document that I've outlined here, that were also outlined in the template in your initial meeting with stakeholders. And so in this meeting, you want to have those involved in the development process, as well as those that will be helping with domain knowledge or other aspects, so that you can make a plan before you launch into the development. And then during and after development, it's important to meet regularly to ensure that the app is headed in the right direction and that you are revisiting those key questions, because the scope may change over time. You may get halfway through the development and realize that the question was slightly different now and they want to trend in a different direction. And you can get feedback on that. But one thing I want to make just very important is, do not get to the app deadline and find out that something is missing, because then the app may be underutilized. And then after development, it's important to discuss the process and how it worked with the planning document, and also just how the entire development process went and how it could be improved. So I just wanted to outline some of the benefits. This is not an extensive list. There could be many more benefits of using a planning document in whatever sense that you do. But some of the benefits that I've outlined here, first is just you can earn the trust of the stakeholder and have open communication with them as you work through this process. That will just ensure that the app is meaningful for the person that is, or person and persons that really is hoping to gain something from the Shiny app, and you have a better understanding of the end user. Sometimes you may be given a task to create the Shiny app where you don't know who exactly will be using it in the end, but having this discussion at the beginning and pulling those people in that will be using and contributing can help get everyone on the same page. And in that sense, you also have a more organized app, because collaboration between the programmers is fluid and everyone knows their purpose and what they're doing. And so there's less time wasted on unnecessary feature development. So overall, there's just increased app utilization because it is there's a prime focus on this. And then there's also better stakeholder satisfaction. So to conclude, I invite you to try it out if you don't have a planning document or process already. I invite you to try it out and see how it would help you. If it does, and maybe it just trying it out to see if it's something that can help you stay focused on who the end user is and in your entire process and development process. So with that, I thank you for your time and invite you to, here's a QR code to my slides and also the document template, or that's the same link as well written there. So thank you for your time today, and I'll take any questions that you may have.
It's very interesting. Thank you very much. Yes, so you have some questions from the chat. You have a question from Michael. Maybe he said, so maybe this is too meta, but have you considered making a Shiny app to walk people through planning Shiny applications?
That's a great question. I actually have not thought of that. That's a good idea, and it would be helpful. And then it would just output the document that you need. So no, I would love to see that. Someone should put that together, and then I'll use it.
You have a second question from Martin. So, what platform did you use for those planning documents?
It's a good question. So typically, I just use a Google Doc, and then that's where it's shareable with teammates. Actually, to be more specific, I've been using Confluence because that's what my company uses to share them through just through the organization, and that just makes it easier to build the tables and the timeline because they have some special features that you can use in there to make it more visually appealing, the planning document itself. And also, if you are using Jira, another Atlassian product, you can link it to Jira tickets or link it to even the Shiny app in general. So